All right.
Yeah, so we got this got it saving a lot of money on taxes, right? And if we need to get somebody to do that, we call an engineer. What information would you need from us as the operator to actually perform that cost segregation?
So the first thing we always do is even do an upfront estimate, which is going to show you what your potential tax savings would be. For that information, we need very little information. For that estimate, we just need, the address of the property, the purchase price, the place and service date. Okay, so if it when it was acquired, the purchase date. If there was a 1031 exchange involved, we'll need, what's the new basis, because when you do a 1031 exchange, we mentioned at the beginning that when you buy a property, your depreciation is based on what you paid for it. Okay, so $1 million property, you get to now write off the $1 million. But when you do a 1031 exchange, your basis carries over from the last property. So as part of the rules that since you can defer the capital gains, you defer the depreciation recapture tax from that sold property, you just carry over. So whatever that is, if you already depreciated a bunch, whatever's left over, that's what's your basis on your new property. So we need to know that. If you're doing major renovations or a big, rehab project, we'd, like to see a construction budget, because that will tell us what the benefits of doing the renovations component will be as well. Once we have that, we'll do an estimate, and then the real cost segregation, that's much more in depth. Engineer will come to the property, take pictures, measurements, survey basically the whole property, walk the property, and then come back. We need from that, we'll need the appraisal and, et cetera, just to be able to get that information and come back and create that report.
How small of a property can you go? I mean, would you do a cost segregation for, say, a 4 or 5 unit? I have a 16 unit, a 4 unit. Is that something that cost segregation would help? Is that something that different firms would take on since it's so small, or is it just mostly larger properties that this works for?
It's more based on the purchase price than it is the unit count. Okay, so you can have a single family property because, again, it's all proportions. Okay, it's percentages. So my rule of thumb is anything over $1 million purchase is like a no-brainer. There's so much there, it's ridiculous. Under $500,000, I say it's usually not worth it, depending on the situation, just because the amount of depreciation that can be had is, there's obviously a fee involved in the process, which is a flat fee. It's not contingent on the savings, but nevertheless, it's still something you have to, weigh that out and see what those benefits are going to be. So again, if it's a 20% reallocation on a $500,000 property after the land deduction, you're talking about maybe, $70,000, $80,000 of extra depreciation over a 5-year period. Now so it can work. There are definitely firms that do that. We typically try to just, want to provide the most value for our clients as possible. So we typically recommend only on larger properties where you're going to get the value. That being said, it also depends on the individual. It depends on what their portfolio is. Okay, I spoke to someone yesterday and they have, a 12 unit and an 8 unit. And they're like, we also have a bunch of single families that we bought for like $50,000, $70,000 each. Is it worth it to do that? I said, listen, you do the cost segregation on the 12 unit you bought for, $1 million. You're going to have enough depreciation. It's going to spread across your whole portfolio, meaning the depreciation that you get spreads across and allows to offset the income from your whole portfolio because it's your income all across the board. So you don't need to do it necessarily on a smaller property when the benefit is not going to be there.
Hutch, you're muted.
Got it. So in the years of doing cost segregation, what is the best savings have you seen so far?
Oh man, the best savings. We did an RV park last year. Okay. Now an RV park.
That's a weird one.
There's nothing there
Yeah.
because there's no building. I mean, the guy, it was like, I don't remember how many acres it was, but it was just like they had a small building, which was like an office and a laundry room. And then everything else is just pavement. Okay. But the pavement, guess what? That's called land improvements. Now, land improvements, if you remember, depreciates on a 15-year schedule. which is also eligible for bonus depreciation. So listen to this. And the land value in that place, it was like worth nothing. The land, it was literally like 0.008% or whatever, the land allocation. It was in the middle of nowhere. The guys literally bought this property for about $3 million, okay? Took like $2.8 million of a first year tax write-off, okay? Because 92%, and I don't remember if the numbers were exactly right, but 92% of the property was allocated to the land improvements because the purchase price was just the land, you know, just that. So that was probably the best. I mean, literally 92% of the purchase price going to bonus depreciation. That was huge.
Wow.
That is insane. So that's the cool thing about real estate is that we can use leverage, right? So the bank controls
Exactly.
is financing about what, but between 65 and 90% of the purchase price, but we can depreciate almost 100% of that. That's a game changer. It's a beauty about real estate, man. It's super fascinating, super exciting, and it's a great place to be. You know, so now cost segregation is definitely something that we love and appreciate that the governments afford us to do.